afraid to talk about money and talk about prenups and all kinds of stuff before getting married, you're not ready to get married. You're not ready to get married. If you are so insecure in your relationship, whether because of the man actually making you not feel secure because he's giving very mixed signals and maybe doesn't make you feel like you're special, that you're just like a replaceable woman and just love your labor and not you. Or if it's because of your own insecurity, because you are really, really afraid of losing this person. It's not because of him, but it's actually because of your own fear of using your voice, fear of being abandoned, all that stuff, right? Trauma responses, blah, 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 blah. Either way, if you are too afraid to bring up a prenup, even post-nup, or whatever, your finances, how that's going to work out. If you're too afraid to tell him you're going to have your own bank account with your own money, like that you are not going to share everything with him. Like, you're too afraid to talk about monogamy and open relationships. And is that something he's going to want? Or is that something that you're going to want? Like, y'all need to talk about all this. And if you're too afraid to, you are not ready for marriage. You need more time. You need to get to know this person more. You also need to face your own fear of having this conversation. Either way, if it's because of him or because of you, if you are so afraid that he's going to leave you, he's not going to show up to the altar because you brought up a prenup, then that should be a huge red flag in either him or in you. This is a business contract. Yeah, but, prenups and money, and that's not romantic. Screw it. It's also not romantic. Losing all your money to a parasite, a man who marries you because you're successful and have your own money. And he literally takes all of it. I don't think women realize how many men are actual, not just emotional gold diggers, but literal gold diggers. One of my mutual called them a soul digger, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. Some of them are literal gold diggers. That's why I talk about hobosexuals a lot. Now, the worst, most dangerous, and most financially detrimental relationship I've ever had was with a man who had nothing. I thought somehow I had more power in that situation because I had more money. I didn't even have much money, but I had more than him because he rode the rails, lived out of a backpack. God, no, because a man with no money will literally find a way to take all your money, or at the very least will ruin your ability to make money. Sometimes I'm afraid to do the math on how much money I lost from paying for all the gas, all of the utilities, all of our rent, literally everything I paid for. So if you're not talking about finances because you're afraid, you should not be getting married. You could lose everything. If you're too afraid to bring up monogamy, and I'm not even saying it about him, I'm even saying it about yourself. A lot of women think that they want to be monogamous forever because a lot of us have been raised under purity culture to think that, would never, ever want anything but, schmegs based on love. That's what I thought. And after I had so many amazing schmegsual experiences with men I didn't give a crap about, but it was literally just fun and an adventure, I was like, man, I don't even know if I'm cut out for monogamy. It was actually one of my biggest fears going into marriage with my husband. I was like, oh my God, I'm having so much fun. This is like the best my schmegs life has ever been. I am discovering a whole new person because of this embodiment of my schmegsuality after it had been, cut off or just dead because of purity culture and former schmegsual trauma. And so when I met him, I was like, oh my God, wait, oh no, does this mean, And I was so afraid to have this conversation. I've never had this conversation before. I also wasn't afraid to have it because I knew by then I could tell him anything. We brought it up. I was like, I don't feel comfortable getting married ever until we talk about what this will look like in the future. I don't know if I could be monogamous. I don't really want to be with anyone else. I can't imagine myself wanting to fork anyone else, but at the same time, I've also never been in a super long-term relationship. I don't know what I'm going to want in the future. So we talked about all of that. In fact, I actually kind of wrote a little bit about it in this piece for the Daily Beast a few years ago about going to a schmegs club. Now, I went to the schmegs club for work. I'd always wanted to go to one. Was asked to do that reported story. And then one of the women that I met while reporting was super cool. And she was like, you should go. Do you want to come with me? Sometimes people go with their girlfriends. You don't have to hook up with someone. And so I was like, actually, yeah, it makes way more sense for me to write about going to a schmegs club by going to one, not just interviewing people about it. Because I had had these hard conversations that were actually very easy. The idea of them was hard. Because I already had that conversation, I knew that when I brought it up with Anthony, it wouldn't be like, wait, what? And when I told him, I was like, okay, so I would love to actually go to a schmegs club with you at some point, probably. We'd talked about that before, even though we're seriously, but theoretically, all because me mostly. I'm like the wild one in our relationship. It's romantic. It's really funny. God, one of us is like romantic. He's actually taught me to be romantic. Anyway, when I brought it up, it was like, you absolutely should go, babe. I trust you. I was like, I mean, I would love to go with you for my first time, but also this seems really important. And he was like, it is important. You go for this story. You're a storyteller. You're a traveler. This is your career. This is your life, is going places and experiencing things and then talking about your experience there. And if we want to go, we'll go with it together in like a different context. This is work. You know what I mean? Like none of that was threatening to him. Why? Because I already trusted him and he trusted me and we had that foundation of security, but also because we talked about very hard things in the beginning and have continued to. So hard conversations are actually very easy. It's shocking how easy it is for me to talk about things I never thought you could talk about with a partner. The funny thing is, this is what surprised me. When I went to this Meg's Club and I was like around all these like beautiful men, you know, just going to town, eating that, like, blah. I was like, wow. I wasn't like, oh my God, I want that. There was something very liberating, very, very, very freeing, not having these constraints of like these rigid rules, right? That heteronormative culture, purity culture, and all of that indoctrination had taught me. In fact, the most valuable relationship advice I've ever gotten, whether in terms of like advice or just examples of like beautiful love and relationship, has been from the LGBTQ plus community. I really kind of let go of a lot of ideas around what marriage even is from what all they've shared with me, shown me in real time. So I say all this because I don't think we talk enough about how important it is before you even think about marriage, before you ever accept that ring. At the very least, before you sign those papers and walk down the aisle, you've had very hard conversations up front, not only because the conversation itself is important, because your willingness and feeling safe enough to have that conversation shows that there's a level of trust there that needs to be there to do something as huge as marriage. Because marrying, or even dating, but especially marrying the wrong man, and all it takes is one, not only ruin your life, but could end it. And if you can't even talk about money or monogamy or any of these big subjects before entering that contract, you're not ready yet. Take your time. You have everything to lose. Men have everything to gain. They've tried to convince us the opposite, but you're the one taking all the risk here. Make sure you are confident in that risk.